the Sweet Sparrow Knits podcast. My name is Julie, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Sweet Sparrow Knits, and you can find my hand-dyed yarn at sweetsparrowyarns.etsy.com. Welcome back. Let's see. Oh, you can see Bilbo. He's having a groom right over here. Today is Monday, July 6th, 2020, and I'm so happy to be back with you. I'm very excited to be sticking to my 2-week recording schedule, and I'm just so thankful to have more time now that I've moved out to the country and I'm not constantly running around. So it's great to be able to spend some more time with you. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. I celebrated my birthday last Monday. I am now 30. I know that tends to be an age that people think of as like a scary one, but it really doesn't bother me. I'm really happy, and I think I'm starting 30 in about the best place I could be, both where I'm living and just how I'm feeling, and yeah, it's been really wonderful so far. My brother came up to our house for a few days of vacation last week. It's actually his birthday today, so happy birthday, Zach! Probably belated by the time this goes out, but yeah, so we're both summer babies. We're both Cancerians. Yeah, so he came to visit, and that was really fun. It was great to watch him and John, my wonderful boyfriend, get to know each other a little bit better, because they'd only interacted either briefly or in kind of a larger group setting in the past. And of course, it made me so happy that they got along really well and found each other funny, and yeah, it was great. It was really great. We spent a lot of time down by the river reading. John took off work as well while Zach was here, and I took the whole last week off, which has been magic. It was the first time off I've taken since Christmas, and it was just wonderful to really relax in our cozy home. So let's get to the knitting, shall we? I have a finished object to share with you. I finished a pair of socks. These are just simple vanilla socks, 64 stitches? Yeah. These are just simple 64 stitch vanilla socks out of my mini eggs colorway, which I do on sock blanks. And it creates these really cute micro stripes. Afterthought heels. Very happy with these, and I think they'll be a lot of fun to wear once the weather cools off a bit. I started these a really long time ago. They were in my Socks That Need Heels basket for probably 2 years-ish. So I'm very happy to have them done at last. That's what this quarantine has come to. I'm putting heels in my socks. Whew. The situation is dire. I have also made a lot of progress on my Grace cardigan. The pattern is by Jane Richmond, and this is the beautiful INFP colorway from Stacy of Stress Knits, which she dyed specifically for me based on my Myers-Briggs personality type. And I have finished the body, bound it off, finished the first sleeve and bound that off. So all I have left to do is the second sleeve and the button and neck bands. So I'm hoping to have that complete by the time I next talk to you. Did I say that last week? I might have. Well, I mean it this time. Yeah, this is a really beautiful, lightweight cardigan. It's in a fingering weight yarn, and I think it would be perfect for the cool mornings and cool evenings that we're having. It gets quite hot during the day. I think yesterday it was about 90. So during the day I am in tank tops and sleeveless dresses all the time. But it does get cool in the evenings, which is very nice. I think the only modification that I made to this pattern was to do 3/4 length sleeves, which I do on most of my sweaters. I'm very excited to pick buttons for this sweater. I have quite a large collection of vintage buttons. I've been collecting them since I was a kid, and I really love going through my button tins and picking just the right buttons for any given project. I'm not sure what they will be for this sweater yet. We'll soon find out. I also have a new cast on to share with you. I have started the Little Twig sweater by Melody of Mandarins, and I am knitting this out of Sweet Sparrow yarns and the Plover base, which is a 50/50 cotton and superwash merino base. It is so nice and soft. I had shown you the swatch for this last time, and this pattern starts with the sleeves, and then you knit the body, and then you attach it all in the round and knit the beautiful textured yoke. So I have completed the first sleeve. I'm very happy with the stitch definition in this base. I think it's really lovely, and the subtle tonal quality I think is really shown off to its best advantage in that it's a mostly stockinette sweater with texture coming in at the yoke. There's a lot of cords happening right now because I have some of the stitches on waste yarn for where they will attach to the underarm, and then some on another cord where they will be attached to the yoke. So it's a little, it has a lot of tentacles right now. I am so enjoying working with my Plover base. I am one of those people who does have a little bit of a wrist issue when working with cotton or linen, so I was really excited to find that the wool gives the Plover base enough elasticity that I don't have any wrist issues. I knit this whole sleeve in about 2 days, which for me is pretty quick. And I was able to just knit away on it, and I already can't wait to get back to it and start the other sleeve. For the first time in a long time, I also have some spinning to share with you. This was one of 2 4-ounce braids that I purchased from either Spun Right Round or On the Round. I'm afraid I don't remember which. In the Happy Camper colorway. It was brighter than I expected when I received it, and it was beautiful, but it was a little bit outside my color comfort zone for something I would knit with and wear. So these will be going to my beautiful friend Emma, who I met through the Knit Local retreat run by Sarah of Yarns at Yinhu. So as soon as this one is dry, I will get these off in the mail to her. Here is the first skein that I spun. It is very squishy. I think it'll be a pleasure to knit with, so I'm excited to see what Emma decides to make out of it. I would say it is between a sport and a DK in general. There's probably a few areas that are closer to fingering and a few that are closer to worsted, but overall I would say it's in that sport DK range. So I finished that yesterday, and I was so in the mood to spin. I have been watching the Knit Girls, who are doing their annual Stash Dash right now, which is going through a certain amount of your stash in the summer months. I think there are like 2K, 3K, 5K, 7K, and 10K, maybe more. But those are the meterages that you are aiming for Stash Dash. And if I hit 5K, I will be thrilled. I haven't managed it yet. I've tried numerous years, but for whatever reason, summer always ends up getting just filled up in a way that I never anticipate. So I don't end up having nearly as much crafting time as I thought that I would. But obviously this year we are not going anywhere. And I'm really enjoying having a little more time to work on my projects. So anyway, the reason I bring up the Knit Girls is because Laura of the Knit Girls is a prolific spinner. I love to see her hand spun. She has a new skein almost every week, and I just felt really inspired to spin. So currently on my bobbin is this beautiful colorway. See if I can wrangle it. Which I absolutely love. It's very much my colors. I'll show you a shot on the bobbin because I think you'll probably get a better idea of the color distribution. This is a superwash merino, cashmere, and nylon blend, and this is the Heirloom Ornamental colorway from Into the World. I bought this at Rhinebeck 2 years ago, maybe 3, and it is so beautiful. I absolutely love it. It is a pleasure to spin with. The fiber is just so beautifully prepped, especially because I am doing a fractal spin, which creates a subtle self-striping effect. So you divide the braid in half vertically, spin one of those halves end to end, and then split the other half into an additional 4 vertical sections. So those 4 vertical sections are extremely easy to spin because they're already so narrow. So I really am not having to do any pre-drafting at all, which is lovely. And I started this yesterday, and I am on the 4th of the smaller sections. I should get lots of lovely barber poling, and this is going to be my first pair of hand-spun socks, which I'm really looking forward to. I always think hand-spun socks look so cozy and so beautiful, and I actually have never knit any socks out of my hand-spun. I'm just going to take a moment to check that I'm in focus. My last episode, I recorded the first 15 minutes and didn't realize it wasn't in focus because I am, time is marching on, and I could not see the little screen well enough to realize that I was blurry. But I think I'm okay. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed that up close and personal look. Let's talk about what I'll be working on next. I think my top priority right now is to finish the Grace cardigan because it is really very close to being done, and I'm looking forward to wearing it. I'm actually particularly looking forward to wearing it with the dress that I am wearing right now. They have that sort of soft pink in common. I think the combination of a sweet little cardigan over a more bohemian sort of flowy dress will make me feel like an elementary school art teacher, which is, to be honest, the style that I go for in general. So I'm very excited to finish this. In addition to working on my little twigs, I would also like to have another project going at a different gauge because I find it helpful to give my hands a little bit of a break by switching from bigger needles to smaller needles and then back to bigger needles. So I will also be starting the Housed sweater, I believe is how it's pronounced, by Ellie of Skein Deer Knits, and I will be knitting it out of this beautiful Navia duo. It's in a beautiful dark gray heathered color. It is lovely. And this project will be a special one because my wonderful friend Ellie designed the pattern, and Ellie is one of those people who, there are many amongst my knitting friends who I really wish we lived closer, because every time that we see each other it just feels like we have never been apart. And of course she lives in London, so we don't see each other that often, but she has come to the States a few times, and I was living near New York at the time, so we were able to get together, and I purchased this yarn from my wonderful friend Paige of Frame and Fiber. She is, how do I even begin to describe Paige? She is a free spirit, she is wise, but she has a young soul. She is just a wonderful person, and I'm very excited to knit a sweater patterned by one of my dear friends in yarn purchased from another of my dear friends. This is so nice and woolly. It really satisfies my need to have a woolly wool project on the needles. I would say it's in texture probably similar to, I would say it's a bit softer than Jameson's, but is that right? Or am I calling it the name of a whiskey? Jameson and Smith, I think. Well, you all know what I mean. The colorwork yarn. It is similar in texture to that, but I would say it's even a little bit softer, and I think it's going to be glorious to knit with. I am also going to keep up my spinning momentum. I purchased 4 4-ounce braids of this beautiful fiber from Created by LCB. I purchased this, I think, 2 summers ago. It was a one-of-a-kind colorway called the Queen's Court, and it is just all my favorite colors. Soft greens, a beautiful sort of blue-gray, rose colors, a hint of this burgundy. It's so pretty. And I began spinning it, I think probably pretty soon after I got it, so this has been a very long-term spinning project. I would love to knit this into the Forager by Melody of Mandarins. As I mentioned on my last episode, I would like to try to knit all of Melody's patterns. It's a big goal, but I like a big goal sometimes. So I think in order to get the appropriate weight, I would need to 3-ply this. I don't think I've ever done a true 3-ply in my spinning, and I think that will blend the colors really beautifully and give it sort of an all-over color with subtle striping, as opposed to a 2-ply, which would give me sort of more distinct striping. I would love to get all of my braids of that fiber spun up over the next 2 months-ish, so that I can start knitting on that sweater maybe in September. We'll see how it goes. Melody is also going to be putting out her tulip collection, which I absolutely love. They are these beautiful sweaters. There's a pullover, a longer pullover, and a cardigan version that have this adorable little scalloped edge at the hem, and I just think it's so cute. And I do have yarn coming for all three versions of that. I will show that to you when it gets here. And I think for the cardigan, I will probably use the recommended yarn, which is Nutagen yarn. I managed to snag some of that in the beautiful stem colorway, which is a gorgeous muted green. Oh, there's just so many things I want to knit. I'm really feeling inspired to knit lately. I think because of the knowledge that I will actually be able to wear my sweaters. If you're a longtime viewer, you will remember that my old apartment, while I loved many things about it, the heat system was unpredictable, we could say. It would there were sort of two temperatures. There was freezing and there was hellfire, and there was nothing in between. And in the winter, it was almost always extremely hot. I was sleeping in tank tops and shorts year round because it was just so toasty in my apartment. The steam radiators were either on or off. You really could not regulate any kind of temperature setting. We now live in a beautiful cottage out in the countryside, and I'm excited to be able to have some control over the temperature. So I'm really looking forward to being able to wear sweaters in the house because that wasn't really an option in my apartment. So I am feeling a lot of inspiration to knit plenty of sweaters, and I also would love to knit John a few sweaters. I am not worried about the sweater curse. John is a little bit picky about sweater patterns, so if you have knit a men's colorwork sweater, because he really would like a colorwork sweater that you love, I would love if you left me the name of it in the comments so that I can look it up and maybe it'll be the one. I know John is the one. We just have to find the right sweater to be the one. Bilbo is snoozing next to me and he's having a little snore. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's very cute. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about what I have been reading and watching while I have been doing all of this knitting and spinning. As for what I'm reading, I'm currently reading 2 books and listening to a third. The first book that I'm currently reading is Make the Bread, Buy the Butter by Jennifer Reese. And I first heard of this book from Amy Beth of the Fat Squirrel Speaks podcast. It is an exploration of what it makes the most sense to make and what it makes the most sense to buy as far as food, analyzing the time involved, the sort of hassle involved, and any sort of ethical concerns that are linked to food. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm about halfway through and I'm feeling very inspired to make a lot of our own food, which we have been doing since we moved. I've rediscovered how much I love cooking and baking, which has been such a joy. That was another thing that I just did not have a lot of time to do previously, and I found myself ordering in a lot more than I would have liked to, or just kind of making the same really quick, simple food over and over because I just did not have the time or brain power to devote to it. But now that I do have that time and brain power, it is wonderful. I love to cook, I love to bake, and particularly I think having people that I love around cooking and having John really enjoy what I've made, or when my brother was here having him really enjoy something that I've made, it just means a lot to me. It's definitely one of my love languages, is to make food for people. I'm also reading My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem, and this is a book that I'm reading in conjunction with several lovely friends in the knitting community. My Grandmother's Hands is a book that takes a body-focused, trauma-healing approach to anti-racism work, and it's very powerful. I'm very glad I'm discussing it in a group, because reading this book and doing the accompanying exercises really is a whole experience that I think it's probably best to be able to process with other people. I would highly recommend it, particularly I think right now when so many of us have time to reflect, and we've had sort of a break from our usually really hectic lives. I think this is a great way to use that time to reflect and to each do our own small part in making our world a better place for everyone. I am also listening to an excellent sort of more fluff book, and this is These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling, which I am reading on the recommendation of another lovely friend, Ellie. Ellie is the designer behind Skeinanigans, and we tend to have quite similar taste in books. I don't know if you can hear Reggie. Our flagpole is being repaired today, and Reggie is just appalled that despite hours of barking, the repairmen are still here. Fingers crossed. I think Reggie is a little more calm. So These Witches Don't Burn is a YA novel about a group of teenage witches and it's a fun read. It's really nice to have characters that are diverse, particularly in gender orientation and sexuality, and to have it not be sort of the focus of the book, but just like these are people. Well, I mean, they're witches, but they're people. To have that be presented as this is who these people are and this is their story, I think it's a really good approach, and the author is an LGBTQIA advocate in her everyday life. That's like her, I don't want to say her day job, but that is something that she does do professionally, and I think that really is reflected in the way that she wrote this book. And I'm very much looking forward to reading both the sequel and the prequel. I do love a prequel. Oh, there's something that I just love about exposition. I always have. The first movie in any series or the first book in any series is almost always my favorite, because I just love background information. Hey friends, we're back. I had to pause for a little bit because Reggie was really losing it. He is very offended when anyone is flouting his authority as protector of the house. So after a little break, we are back. As to what I have been watching while I have been knitting and spinning, I have finished up the first season of Top of the Lake. I enjoyed it very much. I'll probably take a little break before the second season because it is a pretty emotionally intense show, and I enjoyed it, but the plot line that I was particularly interested in has now ended, so I don't necessarily want to invest time into that right now. I also watched Hamilton, as did pretty much everyone else. So I have to admit that I never listened to the soundtrack. I was not super interested in Hamilton before the movie of it came out. I don't know, I guess I just thought that it couldn't possibly live up to the amount of hype that it received, and I was so wrong. It was magnificent, and I will probably watch it again in the next few days. Now that I now that I'm a little bit more used to the style, I would like to rewatch particularly the beginning, because I wasn't really immersed in that world yet at the beginning. I've also been watching Lindsay of A Wooden Nest, which is a wonderful podcast. Lindsay recently moved from the suburbs to the countryside with her family, and they're setting up their chicken coop and their garden, and it's just really wonderful to watch because that's something that Lindsay has been wanting to do for quite some time, and she has a very calm demeanor. I think we also have quite similar taste in knitting projects, so I definitely want to go through her episodes and just make a note of what she knits, because I think the majority of the time I would also like to knit it. Oh, and I also have been watching more Star Trek Discovery. I'm enjoying it. I like the characters a lot, and it's interesting, but I guess this isn't really a spoiler, but there is quite a large time travel component to season 2. I would say that in general I do not love time travel as a plot device. It seems like it often turns into a way to solve a problem that the writers have kind of written themselves into a corner. It seems like it's often, time travel, that's how we'll fix it. And I would say that in other Star Trek series, once every season or two, there's definitely an episode where you're like, oh, they just ran out of budget. They're just reusing footage from old episodes because they don't have any more money, and they're just making this like very flimsy time travel plot line where they can do like 6 or 8 minutes of new footage and then just cobble it together with old footage. But I would say that Discovery is one of the better examples I've seen of how to use time travel as a plot device. There's also alternate universe stuff in Discovery, which is another thing that I generally don't like. But yeah, I would say that considering that there are 2 major elements that I usually dislike, I like the show a surprising amount. Last but not least, I put out a call on Instagram to see if anyone had any questions they would like me to answer on today's podcast, and I did get a few, so let's answer them. Tanya asks, how's being another year older? Well, I talked about this a little bit earlier in the podcast, but it's great. So far, 30 is excellent. Yeah, 30 is an important birthday to me. When I was younger, I dealt with some pretty severe depression, and 30 seemed like a birthday that it would be impossible for me to reach. And I'm so very happy to be here and to be 30, and I'm excited to start a new decade of my life. 28 and 29 were definitely transformational years for me, in terms of my relationships, in terms of my self-worth. in terms of my health. So I feel like I've really set myself up to have a great time in my 30s. Sarah Iva Records, I'm sorry if I'm putting the spaces in the wrong place in your name, asks, do you do any quilting? I have not actually quilted anything as of yet, but I do have a quilt top in progress that I work on sporadically. It's very pretty and I would love to finish it in the next year or so. I'm in no big hurry, but it is a scrappy round the world quilt. Yeah, I would love to finish that sometime soon-ish. I'm not super concerned about it. But I do enjoy it. It feels like a little bit more of a winter project to me, so I am going to work on it this fall and winter. Mom of Peg asks, what is your favorite part of your new home? Oh, it's hard to decide. There are a lot of favorite parts. I think if I had to pick two, I don't think I can narrow it down more than two. I think my two favorite things about our new home are, first of all, getting to live with John and see him every day. It is just the best. If we had not moved when we did, we would not be able to see each other often at all because John lived in Manhattan and I lived outside the city in Jersey, and yeah, public transportation would not be really an option. And the fact that we moved in time to get to see each other every single day is so wonderful. And my other favorite thing about our new home is predictably being able to have peace and quiet. That is something that I need for my peace of mind. I need to be able to know that there is a place I can be and not be hearing anyone's music or anyone's TV. Just being able to pretty reliably say that we'll have peace and quiet has been absolutely amazing and so great for my mental health. I think we will leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!